Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Joey, and welcome back to another video here on my channel. Today, I got a real good one for you guys. This is gonna be my two meta builds for Gauss Prime. Now, each of the two builds have an extra variant, which I will be talking about, which will be very similar to the original. That's why I'm going to be saying this is only going to be a two-build video, though there will be four builds overall that I will be showing you. Like I said, though, two will be very similar to the others. So before I get into any of the builds, I just want to go over my Archon Shards. So first things first is I actually have a Tau Forged yellow on here for parkour. You do not need this shard. You don't need this. This shard is my personal preference. I just like the parkour. I would rather parkour faster than spam the one, quite frankly. But obviously, when I need to use the one, I will for like battery percentages and things like that. But for the most part, I like the parkour around. So I'm much better with the movement that way. It's much smoother for me, so I like to run parkour, especially if I don't have something like the Kratos on my back. Having that extra parkour is really nice. So what I would recommend is that you at least have one casting shard on here, at least one Tau. 37.5% casting speed plus Matter Eye feels good. Without Matter Eye, it doesn't feel great. Without this one shard with Matter Eye, it feels alright. It feels like you would want it a bit better. So this is kind of where I fell. So I fell into having the one casting speed shard here. Now for the other three shards, they're all red Tau duration shards. This frame is very reliant on not reliant, but I would say it's important that you stay in red line for as long as possible. So having duration on here to make sure that we could stay in red line to make sure that we're getting these buffs at a maximum amount of uptime, it's going to be really important for the overall lining of the build. Now, first things first, getting into the builds here, before I talk about any of the actual builds, I just want to talk to you about the survival of this frame. Now, this frame gets up to 120% faster shield recharge while reducing the delay by up to 80% based on battery level. So what you want to make sure is that you're keeping decent battery level, which is why I was saying redline is important, because when you're in redline, if you hit 100% while you're in redline, then you don't have to pay attention to your battery level at all, no matter how much damage you take, no matter how many abilities you use, like Heat Sunder, that are going to be wasting the amount of battery that you have while you're in redline. None of that is going to matter because you're going to be stuck at 100 once you hit that 100% when you're in redline. Now, Redline is going to give us a plethora of buffs. It's going to give us, from what you can see, it's going to give us fire rate for our weapons. It's going to give us reload speed. It's actually going to give us some casting speed, too. We're going to get attack speed for melee weapons, which is really nice. So overall, it's giving you a ton of different buffs here, which are going to be really overall suited to your weapon, but as well, since you have that casting speed buff, as well as you could say even a caster style. But we'll talk about exactly what we're going to do with the builds in a bit. But for now, just understand that it's important that Redline is active, so we're going to be going for that. So keep Redline active, keep your battery up so you keep this shield regen value. Now that I have explained the shield regen to you, the only things you need for survivability are fast deflection to give you shield recharge and minus shield recharge delay, and Aegis. With these two, you are unkillable. And now I'm not talking when Aegis is procced. When Aegis is procced on anybody with shields, you are unkillable. But for some reason, on this Warframe, once Aegis procs a single time, and you sustain some semblance of battery, you practically have unlimited shield regeneration. The enemies will not be able to get through your shields to your HP. It will be as if you have Arcane Aegis up at all times. So just understand that you don't need anything more than just these two right here. So it gives us all this room right here, really, to do whatever we want with the build. So we still have an Arcane slot available to us, which is fantastic, and then we have the rest of the 7 slots here, as well as our Armor and Excellence slot, fully available to however we want. So what I'm going to talk about first is I actually have this Nourish build. Now, you're going to see this build first, and you might notice after I talked about survivability, I do have Rolling Guard on here. When I go to level cap, I'll sacrifice 20% duration just for Rolling Guard, just in case I feel as if I'm going to get Toxin Tick, because the only thing that is going to be able to kill you when you are set up correctly with this build, sustaining your values and everything properly is going to be a Toxin proc, as it's the only thing in the game that will bypass your shields. You can see damage types except Toxin, which will bypass your shields. So you need to still be able to watch for Toxin. So if you see Toxin, Xmas units, things like that, you can have Rolling Guard to protect yourself. Now, if you're in low level missions, you never really need to worry about this because the Toxin isn't really going to do enough damage to kill you in one tick, or it really shouldn't do enough damage to kill you in one tick. So you don't really need to worry about it that much. But yeah, I was using this for level cap, so I have this on here. Now I'll talk about it without it in a minute here. You would pretty much just throw like Constitution right here to give yourself more duration, or if you really didn't care about the duration all that much, you could put more power strength on here to bolster the values of thermal transfer. When I'm talking about the build, let's actually get into what makes the build now. So since this is going to be a weapon platform style build, we actually have Worthy Camaraderie on here. This is going to be 75% weak point critical chance to everyone in our squad. This is additive critical chance. This is not flat value, so it works the same way as like a point strike would. But still, nice to get that extra value. You could go for whatever you want on this slot. You don't really need to go for anything. You don't need to go for Brief Respite. You can go for anything aside from Brief Respite. It's like pretty much it. Brief Respite would be the only thing I would see as like quote unquote useless with this. Really no point in having that. But anything else, you can go for whatever you want. Now, the reason I have Prime Sure-Footed on here is because I take the second ability off. Now, the second ability would give you massive amounts of damage reduction, but like I said, we don't need it because we have our full survivability via our shields. But it also provides you with knockdown immunity and I believe status immunity. I'm honestly not entirely sure. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure if it gives you status immunity or not, but I know it stops you from getting knocked down. So if you guys actually want to keep that to stop yourselves from getting knocked down, it's going to make these builds a bit tougher because you're going to be trying to sustain your battery, and kinetic is going to be draining your battery to reduce the damage that you take. So that's like a big reason why you kind of want to take it off. But if you want to keep it to avoid getting knocked down, I would say just take off Mock Rush, and you'll be much better off that way. Because the fourth ability and the third ability are two keys, so it really comes down to just one of these two. And for someone like me who has Prime Sure-Footed, kinetic plating really isn't all that important to me, so it's an easy subsume off, as Mock Rush will still be able to do things like build battery charge for me really, really easily. So it's still nice to actually have over the second ability. So we have Blind Rage on here to give us big strength. This gets us to 199%, but it's also going to put us into negative efficiency. But we don't really mind the negative efficiency because we are going to be able to get a ton of energy back via equilibrium. Now we have Prime Continuity on here. This is going to be our ability duration. We have Augur Message on here for even more ability duration. We have Narrow Minded on here for even more ability duration, as well as tanking our range down to 34%. Now, a lot of times when I make builds like this that involve something like thermal transfer, where allies in range will be getting an elemental bonus damage, I would say you might want to opt for a little bit more range on your build, at least like base 100 or like a 79%, whatever it is with stretch, just to be able to give your teammates some buffs. But the thing about Gauss actually is since we have ridiculous amounts of range, Sunder will sit on the floor for 48 seconds. So our teammates actually will be able to just walk into it and pick it up. We don't actually have to be near them when we cast it. As long as it's down relatively to a point, like say how a Wisp moat works, they just walk through it, they pick up the Wisp buffs, and they move on their way. This works the exact same way. So when I cast it, it'll stay on the ground. You could leave it, go back into it, refresh your buffs. Teammates can walk through it, refresh their buffs. You could leave it in a hallway for them. So you don't actually really need range to buff your teammates, which is really, really nice. So we actually can save a mod slot in that regard. So like I said, we have Rolling Guard. If you guys want, you could just throw Constitution right here just to give you guys more duration. Just put it here like this. You get 351%. You get 105% duration on Redline, which is ridiculous. Really, really, like you want to talk about comfortable gameplay, that is comfortable gameplay right there. 105-second duration. So if you guys are feeling that, go for it. Totally fine to go for that. Like I said, we have Equilibrium on here to restore our energy. We have Thermal Transfer on here, as this is going to be able to give us either heat, cold, or it's going to give us blast damage increases, which is going to be really, really nice for whatever we want to throw it on, whatever kind of weapon platform we want to use. The blast is fantastic, especially with the massive amounts of fire rate that you get out of the fourth ability. And then, like I said, we have Fast Deflection on here for our survival, Aegis on here for our survival, and then we have Molt Augmented on here to give us free ability strength. It's going to be nice to bolster our fourth ability, our elemental damage, even further, which is going to be really, really nice. Now, I was saying there's another variant of this build. The other variant of this build would be exactly this right here. It's just a little bit different. The only thing that I have different about this build is that I have flow on here as well. I have flow instead of, so like, no constitution, but I have flow EQ. This one doesn't have flow on it. But EQ is so good, and you're in your abilities for so long, you don't really need to cast all that often. So having low energy really doesn't make all that much of a difference, at least as far as I find. I've taken this to level cap a handful of times, and it's very, very easy, very comfy, very strong. So I wouldn't worry all that much. So if you guys don't even want to go for something like flow, you can go for double duration mods here as well. This is the other build. I go for combat discipline on this one, plus Avenger for anything I want to use with that sword. Plus this one has Xatas Whisper on it. Xatas is amazing on this Warframe. I would highly, highly recommend that you guys try it out with a weapon platform build like this, especially with the blast that you can get out of Sunder. It is so, so powerful with Xatas, with the extra instances of damage and the double dipping. It is so strong. Definitely would recommend it. As well as Nourish is also fantastic. So whichever one of these two variants that you guys think you would like to try out for yourselves, go ahead and give it a try. They are both absolutely fantastic, capable of doing level 1 to level 999,000, whatever it is, 99999, whatever, so you guys can have fun with that. Now, I'll give you guys a little showcase real fast. Now, before I get into even how the build kills enemies, I'm going to show you guys just how to survive. So you just use like you want to use your cold on your 3, use your 1 just to get your charge up. You want to have some charge of your red line available. Now you can see these enemies are going to shoot me, and you can already see that they're having complete trouble to get through. Now we have Aegis proc. Now, when Aegis is down, it's going to be, I would say, practically impossible for them to get through my shields. Aegis goes down, and you see, they just can't get through the shields. Now, like I said, anything but Toxin only Toxin will be able to get through this. Nothing but Toxin can get through your shields, so nothing will be able to kill you. Just maintain a little bit of that. You can see how long our red line lasts. I'm not even holding it like max value to give us max charge speeds, so you can just see how well that this frame survives. Now, if you actually wanted to start doing some damage, you could combo up, give yourself blast damage, throw your Nourish on, and now you can start dealing damage to the enemies. And now you can see here something like my Hema is ripping these guys to shreds. So this is really, really powerful. Now I'll pause the enemies because you guys kind of get a gist of how the survivability works, and I'm going to swap over to the Xatas build because the Xatas build works really, really well with a weapon like this. Now what I'll show you guys here is I'll actually spawn in some Manics for the showcase because we are going to be dealing ridiculous amounts of damage. So having something like Manics in front of us is going to be important. We have my Hema here. I have a build on my channel for the Hema if you guys are interested in seeing that. You can see also how ridiculously long some of our durations are here. We're getting we have over 90 plus seconds on our 4, 105 seconds plus on our second ability. And then now you can see if I shoot at these enemies and now we have our stacks up, you can kind of just see what I was talking about. We're getting that fire rate from the 4th ability. We're getting blast from the 3rd. We're getting our helmet ability of choice, which here is Xatas Whisper, which is allowing our weapon to just do such ridiculous amounts of damage. You could just see the way that I'm able to rip through this pack of enemies like it's absolutely nothing, and these are simulated level cap enemies, these Manic, well, not simulated level cap trash enemies, these Manic Bombards. So this would be as if you took this into a level cap run of Cascade and you said, okay, I'm bringing Gauss with me, I'm going to have my secondary or my melee kill, and then my primary is going to be my wave clear weapon. Or even if you wanted to use this as your main killing weapon, you can just see this is what you can expect out of this weapon, out of this kind of combo with this setup. This is truly an S+, like Saren level of weapon platform that we have here with how OP things like Toxin Lash are. Gauss with the ability to have helmets on, like things like Xatas, just really brings his kit to another level. And you could really see the amount of damage that we can get out of weapons like that. Even if you wanted to do a melee style, I have my Akina on here. I can put my blast damage back up, and you can see, you can still do tons of damage with your melees. So whatever you guys want to use, like you can see how these Manics just get deleted. Yeah, so however you guys want to use it, you know, you guys can use this frame. He's so powerful for buffing your weapons. I would highly recommend that you guys go out and give it a try. Now, what I want to talk about next is probably a build that you guys have seen before. This is going to be more so of your caster Gauss build. Over so many patches, it's gotten less and less popular, but it still holds power and it's still usable. It's not something that I personally use regularly, but I think it is something that is definitely usable. Now, what I want to talk about is going to be this build right here. This is going to be your high range AoE Sunder build. Really, high damage, multi-million damage, AoE armor strip, full caster. You're going to be able to put out a ridiculous amount of damage in an AoE with this weapon, with this setup here. So one thing I want to talk about first is what I have on this setup here is I actually have Bright Bonnet on here to save me some mod slots, give me free energy sustain, as we're going to be spending a lot of energy on a build like this. So having someone like Bright Bonnet is going to be nice. Plus, it'll give us some free strength, which we're not going to complain about. So as far as that goes, I just want to let you guys know I have another build right here. This is the exact same build but without Constitution in this slot and with Equilibrium instead to use as your energy sustain if you want to go for any other helmet option that I didn't show you with Bright Bonnet here. If you want to go for Roar or whatever it may be, you guys can go for it on something like this, and this will be able to sustain and deal damage just fine. So I just wanted to show you guys that this is another option for you to sustain. I'm going to be using Bonnet as my sustain here, so just keep that in mind. So what we have here is we have corrosive projection in our aura. This is going to be stripping enemy armor by 18% natively, which is going to be really nice for us. We're going to be dealing AoE damage. We're going to be using heat to also strip their armor, which is only going to be able to strip their armor down to 50%. This will give us a nice little jump on that as well. Overall, increasing the damage of the blast and everything that we're going to get when we do proc it. And I will be explaining that more so when I get into the build showcase itself. So like I said, again, we do not use kinetic plating here, so I go for prime sure-footed so I don't get knocked down. We have prime continuity on here for our duration. Transient fortitude on here for strength minus duration. Now, I tried this build out with 40% duration, and I tried this build with 95. Uh, in my opinion, it's a lot more comfortable to play without a heat inherit at 95. If you're going to play with a heat inherit, then just go with 40. You don't need to go with 95 if you're going to use an inherit, but for me, that's just asking too much. So I'm going to stay with the full caster. So we go with 95% here. We're getting that from transient. It's going to tank our ability strength a little bit, but that's better than us losing all of our efficiency, because if we lose all of our efficiency, then we are going to drain all of our energy practically instantly, and it's just not going to be good. So we want to sit at base efficiency values on a build like this. So we have Archon Stretch on here. You could just go for regular stretch. It's totally fine. Your frame's not going to be proccing this. You're going to proc this from an external source like Doriga or Panzer, Coolant Leak, whatever it may be. This can be procced though, so I have it on. We have overextended on here for big range, minus strength. The range is really important, so we go for the range on here. I have an R0 Archon Vitality. You can go for whatever rank you want on here. The health is not important, as we are going to be surviving via shields, like I spoke about before. As you can see, I have fast deflection right here, plus Aegis. This is just to double the amount of heat procs that we get out of our third ability, so we have to do less casts to be able to kill the enemies that are in front of us. It's really just as simple as that. The health has nothing to do with it. It's just for the double heat procs. And then we have Prime Flow on here for our energy max. It's going to give us up to 641 max energy, which is going to be really nice for us. We have Constitution on here for even more duration, which is going to help us out a ton with the shard combo we have. It gives us 201%, which we are going to be very thankful for. We have Molt Augmented on here to give us even more power strength, which is going to help our Bright Bond and give us energy back, as well as bolster things like our casting speed, things like the power strength we're getting out of our second ability, things like the base damage of the heat on our third ability, maybe even bumping it down a cast or so. So you'll see how it all works when we come together. And then we have Arcane Aegis on here for the survivability. Now, as far as the build goes like this, the way I use Bright Bonnet with this build, you may think, okay, he's using Bonnet. Let me drain my energy here. He's not really going to get a lot out of Bonnet with 95%. And in that regard, you would be 100% correct. You see, we get about 27% right here with my sling strength up. But something that you should know is if you actually run Arbucep, you can shoot the Noko bonnets on anyone, And now you can see that our strength has doubled, as if we hit it with Noko's 4. So this fully invigorates it, giving it all the bonuses, the double proc speed, the double strength. I believe it gets some duration increase as well, which is really, really nice. And then this is going to be really, really nice for our sustain. Now, the reason that this is so capable is because, like I said, this is a full caster build. You don't actually need to use your weapons, so having Arbucep in your hands really isn't going to hurt you all that much. Now, if I spawn some enemies in here, I'm not going to spawn any Maddox, and I'm just going to spawn in some regular heavy gunners, because this is what all my testing was based upon before, which is on these regular 230 SP heavy gunners. Not Kuva heavies, not, anything that's going to resist it, just regular heavy gunners. And we're going to show you guys here how this works. So pretty much, obviously, we have our full bar. What we're going to do is we're going to sling. We're going to get our sling strength. We're going to throw our bonnets down. We're going to hit the bonnets. Now, this is also made more so for a more stationary playstyle. Maybe things like defense missions where enemies are coming towards you and you're not running around. That's where maybe the equilibrium build will come in more. We would then cast our 4. You see we have 60 seconds. Now, you just want to get max value out of the battery. You want it to be at the top percent here. Now, you can see I'm not moving and it's draining. You want to cast cold with your third ability to get it to go up, / you want to move. You can cast mock rush to get it to go up. Now, the thing about this is once we hit 100%, you'll see if I cast heat, the bar goes down. If I cast cold, it goes back up. Now, we're at 100%. If I cast heat now, the bar will not go down. For the next 30 seconds or whatever it was when we got it, we can now freely cast heat and cast cold, and the bar is not going to be touched. Now you can also see we have really, really good sustain out of our bright bonnets. Now they go down, we get them up really, really fast. We have casting speed, everything is totally fine. Now what I've noticed is you want to cast once, cast twice, and then you want to burst, and that will do enough damage to kill these enemies here. If you want to do it with the casting speed like I have, it'll look more so like this. Really, really quickly, you can get that done. You can, now I'm going to need to get this back up. Now, to talk about how it works without it, if you want to use the Sunder combo without it, you can. Now, what I would recommend to you is if you're going to use the heat, if you use it twice, you'll see now I have dropped under red line. If I use the cold now, it still does damage, but it's not going to do as nearly as much as it would do if you were north of the red line. Now, you can see 1 tick does legitimately nothing. 2 south of the red line does legitimately nothing. So let's do ourselves a favor here and let's get back up into red line. Let's get our value back up. And now you can see if we're up here, if we double cast and we do something like get our red line back, now if we cast our 3, we get easy damage out of it. So if you're trying to run around and you want to deal damage outside, what I would recommend is that you cast your 3, you cast your 1, you cast your 1 or your 3 again, and then you pop it. Or you can double cast your third ability, like so. Cast, and oh, I'm sorry, disregard. You can cast, I would say you cast it twice, and then you rush through. This will get your bar back up, and then you can burst it, and then it will do a ton of damage. So I can show you kind of here. If I can get my bar up to full, you can see now here I'm at full. Cast, we're under the bar. Now we cast our 1, we're back over, and then we cast our 3, and now we get that full big damage with the cold proc. So to get that big blast proc, obviously it's just heat plus cold coming out of your third ability. If you cast cold first and then you cast heat, it's going to blow the enemies away. If you cast heat first, then you cast cold, it's going to suck the enemies in. And like I said, all you really want to just aim for, though, is just making sure you keep your bar high. You want to get to 100%, because once you get to 100%, then you can just start doing things like this, ripping them apart. You can do tens of millions of damage really, really easily with the setup like this. You see 11 million damage on those guys right there. It pumps out damage. The caster builds are still very, very strong. They just require a little bit of labor, which can be annoying at times, but still, if you're willing to put the effort in, you can get a ton of value out of it. Now, those are going to be the 2 builds I have for you guys today. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys made it to the end of the video, leave a like, leave a comment, letting me know. Subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And have a wonderful rest of your night.